Hi, welcome. My name is Dr. Adelita Gonzalez-Baker, and I am the Program Director of the Master of Arts in Teaching and Master of Education in Bilingual Education, and I'm glad you're here today. I want to talk to you about 4 different things today, but first, the main topic of today is we're going to discuss instilling a better experience for your online students. So the first tip, I'm going to ask you to create relationships with your students. And I know you say, oh my goodness, how can I do that with online? But it's possible. I'm not asking you to be buddy-buddy with your students, but you guys have probably heard of icebreakers. And if you haven't, look it up. There are tons of things out there on the internet about icebreakers. They're just quick little possible assessments. Maybe you're asking your students questions like, hey, what's your favorite ice cream? And I know it's online, so if they're online, you don't want all these responses. So you might say, for those of you who like chocolate, raise your hand. So your students are gonna raise their hands. For those of you who like vanilla, do a thumbs up. So then you have your thumbs up. For those of you who like strawberry, go yay! Little things like that. And maybe for those who are left that haven't responded, then you give them time to give their response to you. I'm also going to ask that you meet virtually after school for Q&A sessions. I've learned through my own students that I have online here at Dallas Baptist University, but also my 2 children that are in public school. They really crave that Q&A that we're not getting right now. So when you're online, you're busy teaching, you're busy showing assessments, maybe ask a couple of questions, but then you have those students who are really struggling and they're just falling further and further behind. So you're able to call them, maybe talk to their parents, but there are kids out there, like my child, who is so afraid to speak up, but he has tons of questions. So I'm just asking that you be available possibly after school or create a time in the day when you can have those Q&A sessions, okay? The second tip is to know your audience. Obviously the age group. Are you working with elementary, middle school, high school? That learning experience is going to be different. There's a reason that here in Texas, our elementary age students are the first ones that are going back to school. They need that hands-on teacher beside them, guiding them, showing them every step of the way. Whereas as students get a little bit older, they can become a little more independent. I'm not saying they're all going to be independent. They still need you. They still need your guidance. Simple how-tos work. I did this with my own online classes. They were having trouble with a discussion that we have called VoiceThread, and it's a video-driven discussion. So I created a little how-to for them, and it worked fabulously. So that's something you may consider too. So my next thing on that was I was going to talk about navigation. So teacher versus the student version. Remember that just because you're familiar with your platform, maybe you're using Google Classrooms, maybe you have Blackboard, maybe you have something called Canva. I don't know what your school is using as the online system. Whatever it is, remember that your system may look different than the student's system. You need somebody who can help the student navigate that. I had this in my own, with my own children. So a teacher had assigned a specific assignment and it had a view only at the top that the student, my child didn't know about. So the teacher also didn't know. My child wasn't speaking up. He didn't say anything. And again, it goes back to you don't know what you don't know, right, about online systems. Teacher didn't know that my son was having trouble. Son didn't know that, hey, I'm supposed to say something about this. So when I came over to take a look, I said, oh, this is simple, easy fix. And so I was able to help him with that. But how many students out there, number 1, may not have parents who can help them? Number 2, are having trouble with everything online. So just some things to consider, okay? The third tip is consider the learning time. So you don't want the traditional lecture. You don't want video conferencing all day. Could you imagine being video conferencing all day, every day? Also, online doesn't mean more assignments, doesn't mean more grading. It just means that you can informally assess. Try some fun things that are out there, Kahoot, surveys. You might even consider a flipped classroom. Oh, and there's a whole thing we can do on just the flipped classroom. And number 4, this is the last one, create connections. You guys, this is your opportunity to get guest speakers to come in from the community. Oh my goodness, we can get people from out of state, possibly out of the country, to come talk to your classes. You might even consider switching teachers. Maybe you have a friend who teaches in a neighboring town. Get them to come on and talk to your students, and then you talk to her students. And obviously consider your students. Some of them like to teach. They like to teach other students. So consider them. Maybe you want them to teach a certain lesson or a certain topic. They would love that. And sometimes your students learn better from their peers. Online should not create an isolated experience. It should be something that the whole community is involved in, and you guys are working collaboratively on this. It's not just a, here's the information, so sorry, here you go. And then you grade it and we're done. We move on. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate that you're a part of our community. Bye.